My current guest is Audrey Schumacher Moe. We will be chatting about her lovely book, Desertwalk, A Search for Secrets of the Desert. Audrey, welcome to my show.
Thank you.
Well, Audrey, you are both writer and illustrator of this charming, charming book. And I do want my audience to know that you did an earlier book, your first, called Beach Walk, An Everyday Journey Through Sea, Sand, and Soul. And this is your recent one, all about the desert, and it's absolutely incredible. As I said, she's both writer and illustrator of it. So, Audrey, why don't you, first of all, give my listeners a description of what Desertwalk shows and tells us?
I think I'll begin with the very last page, which is a quote by Albert Einstein, from Albert Einstein. And he says, "Look deep into nature, and then you will understand everything better." And I think that epitomizes the book. It is a series of walks, each one finding something maybe just normal, but when you pay attention to it, it can enhance your life. I think one of my fans said it better than I can. A fan suggested it was an information-based literary style book, amply illustrated with artful illustrations.
Well, that's terrific. Now, I think it's also important to know, for my listeners to know, that you do live in the high desert. Do we call that the high desert up there where you live? It's high to me because it's not down on the desert floor, but you live up above the valley.
Well, not exactly. I live literally in Desert Hot Springs, and Desert Hot Springs is about 1,000 feet, so it's higher than Palm Springs and the valley, but it's not the high desert yet.
Okay. Well, the thing is that you do have a wonderful view up there. You have a lot of open space, and so for you to go out and do your walks and find things and illustrate them is certainly, the whole area around there is filled with all of these wonderful things. Why did you want to do this book, though?
After I did Beach Walk, when I lived at the beach, and then I moved to the desert, it was a given. There's no way I could move here and not do a desert walk. It forced me to learn about the things in the desert of which I knew nothing, and it just gave me daily pleasure to experience the desert, to see how different it was from the beach, and then to make my drawings of things that really fascinated me or I thought were intriguing. So there was no way I could not do the book.
Well, tell us a little bit about your technique. Now, you're going out on a walk. What do you have with you? A sketchbook, a pad, some watercolors? What do you carry along with you when you go?
Not very much. Mainly water and a cell phone and a little tool for pulling out cactus fibers or spines or whatever, but not the sketchbook, not a notepad, because what I'm doing is I'm going out and experiencing. And when I come back, that's when I sit down and I can remember and relive what I experienced when I went out, whether it was as simple as the way the desert sparkles in the morning. The sunlight just makes everything look like it's a piece of glitter, or whether it's something exciting, the coyote off in the distance or a bobcat crossing my path.
Now, was the bobcat one of the more exciting things, would you say, that you did see that crossed your path? Because I'd sure be excited if I saw that. I'd be excited, but a little worried. I mean, how did you react to that?
No, there's no worry about a bobcat.
Okay.
In fact, there's no worry about any of these desert creatures because they don't want to have anything to do with you. They're just trying to be out there and live. The bobcat was exciting because when do you get to see a bobcat in the wild? So the fact that there was one living on our property just, to me, was an exceptionally exciting thing. And, of course, you just catch a glimpse. And they're not out there running around so that you could see them daily. So it was quite exciting to see the bobcat. And people always ask me about snakes. And the interesting thing is that I don't see snakes. Snakes do not come out. You know, they're hiding. They don't want to have anything to do with you either. So snakes are not a problem.
Have you seen snakes at all, or you've never seen a snake on any of your walks?
I've seen snakes, but they have been the non-venomous kind. The coach whip, for example. There's about 5 different colors of coach whips, and they're very beautiful. I do not like snakes, but I do understand their beautiful coloration, and the coach whip really is beautiful and is totally, totally harmless. So it always startles me if I see one, but I'm glad they're there. I have seen sidewinder tracks, and I do have a story about sidewinders in the book, but as far as walking and then suddenly seeing a snake, that just does not happen.
Well, that's interesting because I think that, again, we who live down here, the floor of the valley, I've never seen a snake, for instance, on El Paseo or a coyote on El Paseo, but I used to live near the living desert, and I did see coyotes there, and you hear a lot from people who, at certain times of the year, will see snakes, rattlers, and so forth in their neighborhood. So I think we tend to forget that we are still in the wild, even though maybe we're closer to El Paseo than you are, but this is our desert as well. Why don't you tell the story about the Sidewinder? Give us an example of that so that people can try to envision what your book is like. And it is a wonderful, beautiful, beautiful book.
The Sidewinder story actually did not take place outside, which will horrify some people. It took place inside. We were gone for a month, and we were having our floors resanded, and the tile redone. So the doors were open. And when we came home, my first day home, I saw this little round, coiled up thing, sort of the color of plaster, dirty plaster, sitting on my computer printer, and I almost picked it up. It looked as if it was a little plaster replica of something. I thought, oh, my daughter's playing a joke on me. But before I did pick it up, I took an envelope and poked it on the edge with the side of the envelope. It didn't move. It didn't move, and I thought, oh, this is one of those nature company sorts of things, that's meant to be realistic. Then I got to worrying, well, what if it really is a real snake? So I went to my husband to save me. And we had to get a glass and clamp it over the little creature and capture it and so on. But it was quite a shock. And, of course, it was because the doors were open. Otherwise, it never would have been inside.
And it was real. And maybe it wanted to learn more about desert life and thought, get on your computer and you'd learn a little more about it. Well,
maybe so.
That's really interesting. Well, over 100 of Audrey's watercolor paintings are in Desertwalk. And it is amazing. She captures the hair of the rabbit and the Sidewinder tracks and all of those things so beautifully in watercolor. And certainly it's a book that everyone would enjoy reading. And why don't you at this point tell us where people can find this book?
Oh, well, it's available at the Living Desert, at the Palm Desert Visitor Center, Cabot's Pueblo Museum, Palm Springs Visitor Center. Barnes & Noble has it.
Give us your website.
Oh, it's www.walkpublishing.com.
So they can find it at bookstores and Amazon.com as well.
And at the website. They can order it from the website also.
Right. Audrey, what's the main point that you want readers to take away from your book?
I want them to understand that nature enhances your life. It is not something to ignore and just it's out there and you don't care. It's a life-enhancing item that if you pay attention to it, you will be much happier. And Einstein said it right in the last quote of the book.
Well, the final question that I do want to ask you, and I'm going to make a statement first, and that is, Audrey, you formed a publishing company to publish your books, something that many of we writers have done. Where did you have the book printed, and what was that experience like?
The book was printed in Seoul, South Korea. There is a broker who takes care of all of that, so it is a wonderful way to do things. I designed the book with a book designer, and that's one reason that I published and formed my own publishing company was because I could keep control of the book, the format of it, the cover, everything. And then it was printed. I didn't have to bother with that. It came to me on boxes, on a ship, and here I have it.
Well, it's very impressive. It is quality paper, quality everything. And was that a good experience for you?
It was a good experience for both books. Beach Walk was the first one, and then that was so satisfying I decided to do Desert Walk the same way.
Well, you've given talks on your books and on nature, so you're before the public a lot, and you're also a member of the Palm Springs Writers Guild. You've been president of the local chapter of American Pen Women. But for you, what is the biggest challenge that you face in getting the word out there?
You have to work at it. You have to be alert to opportunities, and you have to also, it's a little bit like being a salesperson. You really have to figure out who would like your book and how you can expose them to it. That is not easy.
No, it is not. So not only are you writer and illustrator and publisher, but you do have to do a lot of marketing as well. And as you say, you have to find your niche. Now, fewer publishers are out there these days, and more authors are using various means to create their work. What do you think could be done for local authors who have books in print?
I think I'd like to see a larger forum for where they could present their books and discuss them. The real problem is that you have to have a quality book, and the Palm Springs Writers Guild has been a great boon to many writers, provides contacts and ways for people to go. So that should be thought of first. If you're going to be a writer and you want your book out there, join the Palm Springs Writers Guild. You'll get help.
Well, I think that you touched on a very important point that I was going to mention as well. The book, first of all, the physical book itself has to be top quality.
Absolutely.
It's competing with many other books. Secondly, everyone thinks they can write a book and wants to be a writer, and we certainly want to encourage that. But they need to have people read the book and find out whether it's saleable. Writing a book and having a book doesn't necessarily make it marketable or saleable. And the other thing, too, is did you face any issues when you went to some of the local bookstores to handle your book?
Yes, sometimes they do not want to order from a small publisher. And so, in fact, this year I have Sunbet distributing for me as well as my own publishing company. So that is what you meet at the bookstores. They really often want to just deal with the big publishers.
Well, you've just said another important thing, and it just shows the great experience you have behind you. You have a distributor. Many authors don't realize they need to have a distributor to deal with the bookstores. And has that made things easier for you?
Yes, it has, because the distributor actually goes around and places the book in various places and sells the book to bookstores, and in my case, gift shops is really a very good place for my book because it's a great gift, because it's well priced and a beautiful coffee table book if you want to look at it that way.
Yes, museums. Do you have them in any museums?
Well, Cabot's Pueblo Museum, yes.
Good,
yes.
Good. Well, Audrey, would you give your website and email address once more for our listeners?
The website is www.publishing.com. And my email is very simple. It's Audrey, Audrey, at Moe, MOE, family.net.
Say it once more.
Audrey at Moe, MOE, family.net.
Well, Audrey, it's been great having you here. I really want to encourage people to look for this book, to go on your website, to get out there and take a look at it when you're at the Living Desert or Cabot Museum or any of those other places where it's being handled. Remember that her book is called Desertwalk, A Search for Secrets of the Desert, written and illustrated by Audrey Schumacher Moe. Pardon me, Moe, not Mock. And you'll learn a lot about the desert. I know I did, and it's a delight to read. It's something that you can pick up and put down at your leisure. And I never get tired of looking at it, and it really is a beautiful book. You're to be congratulated. And I'm afraid we are out of time, Audrey, but thank you so much for being here.
It was a pleasure. Thank you.